So let's get started with knockout knee pain. So I'm assuming that you must have some issues with your knees or you wouldn't have joined us tonight, and we really appreciate you being here. First of all, I'm Cynthia Stewart. I am the managing manager of the Bike Barn Custom Fit Studio. The studio's been really, it was one of the first in the nation of its kind, a dedicated fit studio since 2008. I've been working in the studio since later in 2008. I've been doing fits since 2007. I've probably done over 2,000 fits. Maybe that's probably not even a good number. I do about 500 a year, and I've done it, oh gosh, for 10 years. I've been doing fits for more than 10 years. So a lot of fits. I used to be a more serious cyclist. I've done some racing, cyclocross, road, mountain bikes, mostly mountain bike. And I've even experienced knee pain myself. It wasn't really a poor bike fit, but there was another issue that caused it. We figured it out, and I ended up riding pain-free. And that's what I just wanted to say. Knees don't have to hurt. So we're going to go through the presentation. If you have questions, rather than opening it up to where everyone can try to blurt out a question, feel free to type it in. And if we have time at the end of the presentation, we'll get to the questions and try to answer them. If we don't have time at the end, I'll be happy for you to email it to me, Cynthia@bikebarn.com or studio@bikebarn.com, and I'll be happy to answer any additional questions you have. The other thing I wanted to mention is that by attending tonight, we always offer a discount coupon towards a custom fit here in the studio. And if you hang on until the end, I'll be announcing that coupon code and tell you how you can book a fit, or at least call me to inquire about availability and questions and what it all entails. So anyway, let's get to the topic at hand, knocking out knee pain. So none of us like to have anything hurting on the bike. And I would say knee pain is one of the most common complaints or questions that I get. And if you think about it, cycling is a sport of repetitive motion, especially on a road bike. Now, mountain biking, we might be up and down and moving around a little bit more, but we get on our road bike and most of us hold that cadence of 90 RPMs a minute times 60 minutes. That's 5,400 pedal strokes. And if you're out there for 2 or 3 hours, you could be spinning it or turning those cranks over 16,000 times. If there's something not quite right, it can become, if something's not set up quite right, it can become a big, big issue. So, and I like to tell people that the most important fit is the very first fit. Many times people say, oh, I'm not a professional, or I'm just a recreational rider, just a weekend warrior. Well, if you enjoy riding your bike, I would like for you to ride it comfortably and pain-free. And the recreational rider, the weekend warrior, the MS-150 rider, those are the most important people to get started right. If you're a new cyclist, I want you to get started right so you don't injure yourself and you look forward to riding your bike as opposed to dreading that next ride. So it should be something we look forward to riding, getting on our bikes. So, and bicycle fit is dynamic. And by what I mean by that, it changes. Our bodies change. I've been cycling for, gosh, over 20 years. 1996, I think I started getting serious about cycling. And my body's a whole lot different than it was 20 some years ago. My fitness has changed. My flexibility is different. I'm not riding the same bike that I was riding back then. So technology changes, and our fit should change with our equipment, with the changes in our physical body or injuries that we might have. And what we always want is for the bike to fit you, not you to try and fit the bike. Funny story, I had a young lady in this morning who her husband, he bought her a used bike. You know, right now it's hard to get new bikes, but he had bought her a used bike. It was an awesome bike, and he really wanted her to go riding with him, but the bike didn't fit her, and she was in pain, and it hurt. And she told him, just take this bike and have them adjust it. And she didn't want to go. She just wanted him to take the bike back to a store and have them adjust it. Well, that's not the way it works. And he was kind enough to surprise her with a custom bike fit. And she was so elated and she couldn't wait to go ride her bike this weekend, which made me just thrilled. But we want the bike to fit your body. If you just send it to a store, they can't make it fit your body if they don't know what your body is. So general knee advice. I know we just had a little cool spell. I don't know what the weather's supposed to be like this weekend if you're riding this weekend, but it was in the 50s this morning when I left my house. And anytime the weather is that chilly, it's a good idea to cover your knees up. Now you don't have to put on the full leg tights. You can get knee warmers or just knickers, but something that's going to keep your knees covered. You think about what's in the wind when you're riding the bike. Our hands are out front and then our knees are catching all of that wind. And when you're on your bike if you're going 10 miles an hour, 20 miles an hour, or 25 miles an hour, there's a little bit of wind chill that comes into play. So keep those knees covered. Knees don't have a lot of blood flow. There's not a lot of blood supply to the knee area. So keeping them covered and keeping them warming up before you start is a great idea. Warm up, let the blood get flowing. Spend about 15 minutes warming up. Keep it in an easy gear. Oftentimes I see people that think they need to keep it in a hard gear so that they get a workout in, but I want you to keep it in an easy gear. I'm gonna tickle in my throat, sorry people. That's better, okay. And then keep your cadence high. When I talk about cadence, if you're a new cyclist and don't understand what cadence is, when you pedal the bike, when I say RPMs, that's how many revolutions per minute the cranks are going around. The cadence is the number of times you're going around. 90 RPMs a minute is what we say is a good thing to shoot for. We're all different though. Some of us, 100 RPMs is natural. Other people, it might be closer to 80. But those of you that are out there and doing 50, 60, 70 RPMs a minute, that puts a lot of additional strain on the knee joint. So keep your cadence high, adjust your gears accordingly so you still are going the speed that you want to go. And then other knee advice, like I alluded to earlier, is having a bike sit, making sure you're starting off in the most biomechanically correct position for you so that you're not injuring your knees and so that you're getting the most power that you can get out of your bike. So one of the most common causes of knee pain is of improper saddle height. And I see everything from people's seats way too high and they're having to point their toes to get to the bottom, to the seat way too low and it looks like their knees are hitting them in the chin. But if the saddle's too high, generally you may, or possibly you could experience pain behind the knee, so behind your kneecap. And other things will happen too, that not just the knees, but the seat, that could cause a lot of discomfort or a lot of hip rocking if the seat's too high. But generally, if the seat's too high and you have knee pain in the back of the knee, that's the cause. If you're experiencing pain right under the kneecap or right under your patella, I don't know if you can see this. So here's the patella, the kneecap. If you're experiencing pain like right under that kneecap, that is a typical sign that the seat's too low. General rule of thumb. Not always the cause, but that's a general rule of thumb. And when you get the seat just right, you're going to have a nice 30-degree bend in your knee when you're at the bottom of the pedal stroke or the point of furthest extension. And that's also a general number that I throw out there. And that's a static number, not a dynamic number. When I do a dynamic sit, the numbers are going to look a little bit differently because our body's in motion and things move around a lot more. But just right, we want to see about a 30-degree bend in the knee when you're at the bottom. So when your seat is at the right height, you're not going to be totally straight and locked out. That's not good for anybody, but it's going to be just a slight bend in your knee. So you'll see just a soft knee at the bottom of the pedal stroke. The other thing that can cause knee pain is if your seat's not in the right position fore and aft. So your saddle has rails and it clamps onto your bike, and there's a way to move it fore and aft. Can you see that in the picture? Oftentimes people use that to get closer to their handlebars, and that's not really why there's a fore and aft adjustment on your seat. The fore and aft adjustment is to get your knee in the right place over the end of the crank arms. So when the cranks are in the level position, we want to have the knee fall right over the end of the crank, plus or minus a centimeter. Basically, if we dropped a plumb bob from your knee, it should fall, when the pedals are level, it should fall about a centimeter in front of or behind, ideally right at the end of the crank arm. And that puts our knee in a neutral position, whether we're going out and riding the flats around Houston. If we go climb or descend, our bodies will move and shift on the seat. That leaves us in a neutral position so that if we move around, we'll still be in a good, safe pedaling position. Does that make sense? Okay, next slide. How the foot affects the knee. So not just your seat height can affect your knee. The shape of your foot can also affect your knee. So our feet are designed to walk and run, propel us forward. We have an arch that stores and releases energy, and that's what our feet know to do. They're trying to store and release energy and let us walk. When we get on the bicycle, if you're clipping in, you're in a cycling shoe that is a whole lot stiffer than a athletic shoe, and that stiff sole. See, this doesn't bend. That stiff sole helps our foot to work as a lever to help transfer the power. Now, inside that shoe, if you have a high arch, and if that high arch collapses, that can cause your knee to track out of alignment. So you think about it, the arch collapses, what's connected to it? Your tibia or your shin, and then what's on top of that tibia? Your knee. So you've seen people who, instead of pedaling with their knees like pistons straight up and down, things start happening. You see them either their knees rolling out or sticking, or like we call it a wood chopper, knees going out to the sides. Oftentimes that's caused by the foot not being supported. Things that we do to support the foot to help the knee to track in a nice straight, like pistons, is arch support. Cycling specific arch support. We have two different brands that we use here, and it's in a different position than one that you would buy at the, over the counter or at the drugstore or at the running store. The arch is in a little different position because our foot's in a different position. But that stiff-soled cycling shoe and then making sure our foot's supported does a whole lot to help the knee to work straight up and down. So you think about if someone their feet or their knees are coming out and then diving in, that where the tibia and the femur connect, that can cause a lot of irritation where those bones rub together. And I don't know about you, but the cartilage and the meniscus that I have left in there, I need to preserve what I've got. I want to make sure that I don't irritate my knees or wear away cartilage. I usually get a lot of questions on that, but if you've got questions, just ask me at the end. So cleat placement. On the bottom of your shoe, there's options of where to put that cleat, whether you're in a mountain bike shoe with a small cleat, or a road shoe with Speed Play, Look, Shimano. Those are the most popular ones that I see. But there are options and places on the bottom of the shoe for fore and aft, and then lateral placement too. If those cleats are not in the right position, your foot can start fighting it, which means then your knee can start fighting it. If your foot starts twisting, that can cause the knee to twist. So a lot of things that go on at the knee are generated from the foot. So when we do a fit, we always address the cleat placement on your shoe, that whole interface between the pedal, cleat, shoe, and foot, and making sure you have a stable foot. If you have, any of you ever get pain that's lateral or medial, or what I mean, the outside of the knee or on the inside of the knee? So if you get pain that's not right under the kneecap, that's typically a cleat issue. Not always, but it can be a cleat issue. So many of us, our feet don't hang straight, and we want that cleat to kind of simulate how our foot, or to be in line with how our feet hang. And cleats have float too. So anywhere from, well, there are cleats that have no float, which does not ever, I don't ever recommend that. I've had a few customers that have come through with cleats that have zero float, which means when you clip in, can you see, there's no movement. When we clip in, there's a reason that there's float. Most of our feet don't track in that same plane, the whole 360 degrees of the pedal stroke. Some of us, our foot's going to move just a little bit, some of us more than others. If the foot tries to move and the cleat's not allowing it, you may injure your knee and put a lot of extra torque on your knee. But like I said, cleats have 2 degrees, 4 degrees, 6 degrees, and 9 degrees. If you go with a speed play, some of them have almost unlimited float. I don't think it's totally unlimited, but a lot of float. You need to be careful with that too, because sometimes too much float can be almost as detrimental as not enough float. And those are things that a professional bike fitter can help you with and help make that determination. Okay, so that's the basic kind of bike fit issues that can cause knee pain. And how we deal with it is going through the proper fit. Now, there are other issues that can cause your knees to hurt that might be not necessarily related to the bike, but patellar tendonitis. Now, when I say patella, that is your kneecap, and the patellar tendon runs over the kneecap, and tendonitis is when a tendon gets strained or irritated or inflamed. Chondromalacia, that's just a general term for knee pain. Bursitis is if the bursa sac gets inflamed, that can cause a lot of issues. IT band syndrome. A lot of you who are runners will come in complaining of ITBS or IT band syndrome. If any of you have a pain that feels like a knife in the side of your knee, stabbing, that's where the IT band that runs from your hip to the knee will snap across the end of the femur. So there's a bony point on the end of your femur. You can feel it on the side of your knee. And if that gets irritated, that from rubbing, there's things that we can do with the bike fit that can to help alleviate that so it doesn't hurt on the bike. What else? Sorry. And then a leg length discrepancy. If you have a leg length discrepancy, there's some people that have it and don't know it. If you have one knee that hurts on the bike, I hear that's a common complaint I get. Well, my knee, only my left knee hurts, and it's right under the patella. My right knee feels fine. Those of you, some of you may know that you have a discrepancy. Some of you may not. When we're off the bike, when we stand, we can compensate for it. When we do other activities, we can compensate for it. You think about when you sit on a bicycle, you're on a seat, and then your 2 feet are clipped in. So if there's a discrepancy in our leg length, how are we going to compensate? We either start moving on the seat to one side or the other, which causes saddle issues, or we will compensate with pointing our toes more on one side or dropping our heel more, or we just sit there and one knee hurts. So part of the fit process is I do a leg length test to see if there is a discrepancy, and then there's corrections. There are things that we can do to compensate for that. So a lot of things that can cause those knees to hurt. I get many people, when you start to get to be a cyclist in their 50s, maybe 60s, cycling is one of those things you can do well into later years. We want to keep you riding healthy, but when we get to this age, those of us who've been active all of our lives have probably been a little bit hard on our joints, knees, hips. So I get customers through that have had knee replacements. Can you ride safely with after a knee replacement? Of course. In fact, many doctors and orthopedics recommend cycling as their PT, your rehab after that or after surgery. So but it may change your fit because you get a new knee put in and it straightens your leg out. So those types of issues we can address, and we can keep you riding safely. But like I said at the beginning, knees should not hurt on the bike, and you don't have to endure that pain. So I guess at this point, if anyone has questions, go ahead and start. If you've got questions, type them. But I wanted to tell you a little bit about, is there a question? Uh-huh. Okay. Okay. So for cadence is, like I said earlier, how many revolutions our pedal goes around per minute. There are cycling computers that have cadence that will track your cadence. I know Garmin and some of the other computers we have, they'll put a sensor on your crank arm and then a magnet, and it will relay that to your computer that you're looking at while you're riding. And that gives you feedback, because you're not going to know how fast your cadence is unless you've got some kind of cadence sensor on your bike. And so it doesn't translate to miles per hour, because you could be spinning a 90 RPMs, revolutions per minute, on your cadence and going 5 miles an hour. It's going to look like a cartoon character spinning really fast, but it does not relate to miles per hour. It does affect our heart rate. And if those of you that have a slow cadence, where you're the masher, or you always keep it in a hard gear because you think you're going to get a good workout, going to tone my muscles up, it makes it hard on your knees. And those of you that are doing spin class or a lot of the online training, cycling training, some of those, if you've got an instructor, a lot of those spin instructors, nothing against spin instructors, but a lot of them are not outdoor cyclists. And we need to be careful if we're at spin class or some of the classes you do at home on your own bike. If you crank that torque where you're really getting a lot of tension, that puts a lot of strain on your knees. So be careful with that. So long answer, but cadence computers, you can find anything from a Garmin, which they're an expensive product, but they're a cool product and give you a lot of information. And they have a speed and cadence sensor that either comes with it or you could purchase separately. And then there's some lower end, or just cycling computers that aren't Garmin, that are maybe a little more affordable, that will also do cadence to help track it. I hope that answered your question. Thank you. Yes, that's a great question. I was going to get to that. So the fits here at the Bike Barn Custom Fit Studio are by appointment, and it takes about 2 to 2.5 hours. I start with an interview, and unlike when you purchase your bike, many people will say, oh, I got a fit when I purchased my bike that was complimentary. And there is a dollar value associated with that, but what we do here is a lot more detailed. So we sit down for an interview. I want to know, how long have you been riding? What kind of goals do you have? What kind of issues and discomfort do you have? I also want to know about any injuries that you may have had. And then after that, I go through a physical assessment. And with that, I'm looking at your body structure, flexibility, range of motion, leg length. I do a test for leg length. All of those things. And then we get you on the bike, and I use Retool motion capture to measure all of the angles, and we'll start making adjustments. So all of that, and you get a full report that's printed out. Well, we actually email you to, because it's a very professional report that's emailed to you, and a follow-up visit. Great. If you would like to book a fit, feel free. I think at the last slide, I do have our information. You can contact us at bikebarn.com. There is a link on the Bike Barn website where you can fill out a page and I'll call you. Or you can call me here at the studio. Our number's on the Bike Barn website. Or you can email me. Cynthia@bikebarn.com. That's a good question. Contrary to popular belief, it doesn't last forever. So like I said at the very beginning, bike fit's dynamic and it changes as we do. So say you get a fit. And I use this example. I had a friend a long time ago that I fit. A friend, he was an avid cyclist, one of our, a teammate of mine. And I hate to say, I called him, he was a bit of a princess. He was a little high maintenance and finicky. So I had trouble getting his seat in the right place to where he was comfortable. We finally got him dialed in. And then about a month later, he had seen this cool new saddle that came out. And he's like, Cynthia, I want to get that seat. And I'm like, don't you touch your seat. We got your seat in a good position. Had he bought that new seat, it would be a good idea to come back in and let me do some other adjustments. So bike fit should change, or you should have it reevaluated if you buy a new bike, if you get a new saddle, if you get those cool new shoes. That can affect your bike fit because shoes have a different stack height. And then putting the cleats on, what if you don't get them back in the right place? Even if you don't change any equipment, it's a good idea to do an annual fit review. And it's not a full-blown, if you've been here and you come back in a year, I don't have to go, it's not going to take the 2.5 hours. I'll block out an hour, and it's not a full fee. So it's a discounted price also. So an annual fit review. Good question. Great. So thank you all for joining us this afternoon. We really appreciate it. If we cause more questions and you think of something after we sign off, go ahead and just shoot me an email, Cynthia@bikebarn.com, and I'll be happy to get back with you. And I said there's a code for a coupon. I'm offering $50 off of the fit. That was usually a question everybody asks is how much is the fit? Road bike fits are $349.99. Aero fits, because there's a lot more moving pieces, are $399.99. So for attending tonight, we'd like to offer you $50 off the fit. Just tell us that you were at our March of 2021 Zoom. One more question. Great. Yes, definitely. Yes. If you're a new cyclist, bikes come in all different sizes. Now, if you just go to a department store, they may have a one size fits all. But if you look around at your friends, are you all different sizes? Yes. My Nikki in here is all of 5'1". I'm 5'9", almost 5'10". We do not ride the same bike. So two things. And whether it's a mountain bike, road bike, hybrid, the most important thing is you need to have standover clearance, meaning when you stand over the top tube of the bike, you should have clearance between your body and the top tube. Also, the bigger a bike gets, the more stretched out you can get. So, and it's easier to make a bike bigger than it is to make it smaller. If I'm doing a fit, it's easier for me to make a bike bigger by adding a longer stem or a longer seat post. It's hard to make a bike smaller. Good question. If you're having issues, I'm sorry.
So we have an interesting question. Somebody who lives outside of the Houston area, quite a bit outside, who has ordered a bike and would like some advice on how to make one of those complimentary bike fits when she picks up her bike, how she can make the most of that when she's not nearby to be able to get a custom bike fit.
Okay. Okay. I'm not sure I understand. Where is she wanting to do the complimentary fit?
Like if she picks up her bike at the shop and
okay. Oh, okay. Gotcha.
to make the most of that in-store experience.
Okay.
Which she's not able to get in her bike fit.
So hopefully, now not everybody, I know Bike Barn always offers a sizing, which includes setting the seat height and the fore and aft, and then looking at the handlebars. The stem the stem can be in an upright position or a lower position. There's also spacers. So there's things that can be done there, but they should always, we always will get the seat height right and the fore and aft, and then the stem. Now, when you get into handlebar width and stem length and changing out of parts, that goes beyond the spectrum of a complementary fit. So I would hope that they would at least have you on a trainer, have you pedal and watch you pedal. Lisa, could you hand me, there's a device that looks like a protractor on top of my desk over here, the goniometer. There's a device called a goniometer that they will use or should use to measure your knee angle at the bottom of the pedal stroke. And then they should also have you stop with your pedals level and drop a plumb bob from your knee and to get the fore and aft right. If they do a good job of keeping your body in the same position, watching you pedal, not letting you move your foot around, you should get a nice starting point. Good question. So the Custom Fit Studio is located at our Wesleyan and Bissonnet location in Westview. And as of right now, I'm the only person that does our bike fits. And I know that those of you that live on the outlying areas, it is a bit of a drive. We do have weekend appointments. They fill up quick, but Wesleyan and Bissonnet, our Westview location. And thank you. So that's great. We appreciate the questions and thank you all for attending. And just give me a call if you'd like to schedule an appointment or send us an email. And thanks so much. Happy cycling.